The galaxy was burning. Stars that once gave life now gave only fire. Entire worlds were swallowed by war. The Zalari patrol ship Varen's Edge drifted through the ashes of a fallen colony world. The surface below was black and silent. Cities turned to dust. Commander Karen stared out the viewport, her violet eyes cold with exhaustion. They were too late. Again. "This world's gone," said her second officer quietly. "No survivors." Karen was about to turn the ship away when a faint beacon flickered across the screen. An emergency signal. Weak. Almost gone. Her heart skipped. "Lock onto that signal. Land us near the source." The crew hesitated. There was no reason to go down there. No one survived such destruction. But Karen had learned long ago, sometimes miracles hide under ashes. The patrol ship landed among burning wreckage. The air shimmered with heat, and the ground was cracked like old bone. Karen stepped out in her armored suit, her boots crunching against the glassy soil. The signal led her to what was once a human colony dome. The walls had collapsed inward. She scanned the area and froze. Something moved. A small figure crawled out from under the rubble, weak and trembling. Not an alien. Not any known species. A child. Karen rushed forward, kneeling beside the figure. The child's skin was pale, covered in ash and blood. His eyes opened slightly. Gray human eyes. "Stars," one of her soldiers whispered. "It can't be." Karen felt a chill crawl up her spine. "Scan him." The scanner beeped, then gave an impossible reading. Human. 100%. The soldier looked at her in disbelief. "But Commander, humans went extinct centuries ago." Karen stared at the child. Apparently, not all of them. The boy was barely breathing. In his small hands, he clutched a broken data chip, pressing it to his chest like it was life itself. Karen reached for it, but even unconscious, the child wouldn't let go. When she lifted him, his lips moved. His voice was weak but clear enough to make every soldier freeze. "Where's Earth?" Karen's eyes widened. The name echoed in her mind like thunder. Earth. A word forbidden in Zalari archives. A world erased from all galactic maps after the Great Collapse, when humanity vanished and the old wars ended. Every alien race remembered the warning written in human ruins. Never interfere with what remains of Earth. Karen stood there, the dying human in her arms, and felt the weight of that warning. But when the child's breathing slowed, she made her choice. "Prepare the ship," she ordered. "We're taking him." "Commander, that's forbidden." "Then arrest me later." "Move." Back aboard Varen's Edge, the medical team worked in silence. The boy's body was weak, but his vitals, somehow, were stabilizing. The med unit detected strange genetic patterns. Something more than human. Something enhanced. Karen sat beside him in the med bay, watching him sleep inside the healing chamber. He looked peaceful now, like any ordinary child. She glanced at the data chip still locked in his grip. Its surface was shattered, half melted, but strange patterns of light pulsed beneath it. Every attempt to scan it failed. "What are you hiding, little one?" she whispered. The ship's AI flickered. "Commander, there's something unusual about this object. It's using a frequency I can't identify. It's ancient, possibly human military code." Karen frowned. Human military code hadn't been seen in over 400 years. "Can you decode it?" "Negative. The chip's protection level exceeds current galactic encryption standards." She leaned back, exhaling slowly. The humans were long gone, and yet somehow their technology was still beyond anyone's reach. Hours passed. The crew whispered among themselves, nervous and curious. Why would a human child appear now in the middle of a galactic war? How did he survive the destruction of an entire world? Some believed it was a trap. Others said it was a ghost. Karen didn't care. She looked at the map of the galaxy, the war spreading like a dark wave. The Ether Dominion, a ruthless empire, was crushing every system in its path. Her people were losing hope. Maybe this child, this human, meant something. When the boy finally woke, his first word wasn't a question. It was a name. Mother. Karen's chest tightened. "You're safe now, little one," she said gently. He blinked at her, confused, then looked around. "Where's Earth?" I have to go back." Karen hesitated. "Earth is gone." The boy's small hands trembled. "No, it can't be. The message said we would return." "What message?" Karen asked. The boy's eyes drifted to the broken chip glowing faintly in his hand. "This." Before Karen could respond, the ship's lights flickered. The chip emitted a sharp pulse, so strong the entire vessel shuddered. The AI's voice stuttered. "Commander, the object is transmitting. It's sending coordinates across the entire sector." Karen stared at the glowing chip in disbelief. "Coordinates to what?" The AI paused. "To Sol System." Every head in the room turned. The crew went silent. Sol System, the birthplace of humanity, had been dead space for centuries. Karen looked at the boy again. His eyes were wide, reflecting the same light from the chip, and then he whispered, "They're coming back." Suspense end note. For next part. No one knew what the coordinates meant, but Karen felt it in her bones. This child was not just a survivor. He was a signal, and something ancient was about to awaken. Days passed aboard the Varen's Edge, but nothing felt normal anymore. Ever since the crew had rescued the human child, the ship itself had begun to change. The lights hummed differently. The engines ran smoother, faster, quieter, as if something unseen was tuning them. And always, at the center of it, was Eli, the lost human child. Commander Karen watched him from the control deck. He was small, fragile-looking, but there was something about his eyes, calm, focused, far too mature for his age. He never cried. He never asked for toys or comfort. He only asked questions. "How fast is your ship? Why do your weapons use plasma instead of rail kinetics? Where do you store your data cores?" At first, the crew thought it was curiosity. Then systems started to act strange. One morning, Karen woke to an alarm. "Commander," shouted her second officer, "our navigation grid just reset itself. I think the boy." They rushed to the bridge only to find Eli sitting quietly, near the main terminal, his small hand touching the glowing interface. "Eli, what are you doing?" Karen demanded. He looked up with innocent eyes. "It was broken, I fixed it." Her officer frowned. "Fixed it? That's impossible. Even our engineers can't." Before he could finish, the navigation grid stabilized. All errors gone. The ship's systems were cleaner than they had ever been. Karen's breath caught. "Show me the logs." The logs displayed a series of commands written in a language no one recognized. Sharp, efficient code lines filled with human military encryption tags. Karen turned toward Eli. "Where did you learn that?" He looked confused. "It's not learning. It's remembering." From that day, things got stranger. The engines began performing beyond design limits. The ship's AI started answering Eli's voice before anyone else's. Once, the crew caught him inside the engine bay, sitting cross-legged on the floor, wires glowing softly around him like a halo. When Karen called his name, he didn't look up. "The ship is scared," he murmured. She froze. "Scared?" He nodded slowly. "It remembers the war. It remembers the humans it couldn't save." Karen's throat went dry. No AI in the galaxy had that kind of awareness. She checked the diagnostics later and found that the ship's core had begun to rewrite itself. Its old Zalari systems were fusing with something else, something ancient, something human. Later, Karen took Eli to the medbay for another scan. She needed answers. "Your DNA is unusual," said the medic. "It's human, yes, but there are strange sequences, almost like encrypted code. It's as if his body holds a data." Karen frowned. "You mean his genes contain information?" The medic nodded slowly. "We think so. Maybe coordinates, maybe instructions. I've never seen anything like it. Eli sat on the bed silently, holding the broken data chip in his hands. Karen crouched beside him. Eli, that chip, what's inside it? He looked at her, serious now. Home. She blinked. Earth? He shook his head. Not Earth. Something bigger. That night, Karen couldn't sleep. She stood in the observation bay, staring out into the black void. Humans were supposed to be extinct. Every record said so. The Great Collapse had destroyed their worlds, their fleets, even their name from history. But now, a single child had appeared, and her ship, her crew, even her mind felt pulled into something far beyond her control. As she watched the stars, a voice spoke behind her. Commander, said Eli softly. She turned. Can't sleep? He shook his head. I keep hearing them. Hearing who? The voices in the ship, the ones who built it. They're trying to remember. Karen's brow furrowed. Eli, there are no voices. He stepped closer, looking out the window. When humans left, they left their machines behind. But they didn't die. They waited. They still wait. Karen crouched to meet his eyes. Waited for what? He stared at her. And for the first time, she saw something behind those calm gray eyes. Not fear. Not confusion. Awakening. For me, he said simply. The next morning, the ship's AI began transmitting without command. A deep pulse of code rippled through the data channels, reaching far beyond their sector. Karen shouted, "Shut it down. Trace the signal." The AI replied, voice distorted. Directive acknowledged. Activating Sol relay path. The crew panicked. Sol relay? Commander, that's human tech. That system's dead. Karen gritted her teeth. Eli, what did you do? He stood near the main console, the broken chip glowing in his hand. I didn't do anything. The Varan's Edge drifted in silence through deep space. Every light on the ship glowed faintly blue, pulsing in rhythm with the small data chip in Eli's hand. Commander Karen stood on the bridge, staring at the coordinates glowing on the holomap. They led to a place no one dared to go, a dead system filled with radiation and ancient wrecks. A place once called Sol. Commander, her second officer said quietly, are we really doing this? Karen didn't answer at first. She looked at Eli, who sat near the window, eyes fixed on the stars. He looked calm, almost peaceful, but something about him unsettled her more with each passing day. Finally, she spoke. Plot a course. We follow the signal. The crew exchanged nervous looks. Every story about humans warned them, do not enter Sol. But the coordinates burned with a strange gravity pulling them forward. As the ship crossed into the Sol system, all scanners began to fail. Static filled the comms and the AI's voice flickered in and out. Warning, it said, glitching. Active defense network detected. Karen frowned. That's impossible. Humanity's defenses were destroyed centuries ago. The moment they passed the orbit of a shattered planet, alarms screamed. Beams of blue light erupted from the darkness. Dozens of satellites, ancient and massive, locked onto their ship. Shields up, Karen shouted. The ship shook violently as energy fields surrounded them. Everyone prepared for impact, but the attack never came. Instead, the satellites rotated slowly. The beams of light scanned the ship, then focused on Eli standing at the viewport. The boy raised his hand as if greeting them. The lights changed from blue to white. The ship's AI suddenly spoke in a new voice, deep, human, and commanding. Identification confirmed. Command Air recognized. Access granted to Sol Defense Network. The crew froze. Karen's heart raced. What did it say? Eli turned toward her. They know me. The stars around them lit up. Thousands of dark shapes began to emerge from behind broken moons and asteroids, human ships preserved by time itself. Huge dreadnoughts with armor black as night drifted out of the shadows. Their hulls bore ancient human symbols and their engines flickered to life after centuries of silence. Karen whispered, "By the stars. This is an entire fleet," the AI confirmed. Sol Defense Network reactivated. Status operational. Eli stepped closer to the main console. The glowing chip in his hand merged with the ship's interface. connecting to the ancient signal. The hologram before them changed, showing hundreds of dormant worlds, hidden deep in the galaxy, all marked with the human emblem. Karen's crew gasped. The humans hadn't died. They had hidden. They descended toward the ruins of Earth's orbit. It was silent, gray, broken, yet strangely beautiful. Wreckage of old space stations drifted slowly, frozen in time. As they passed the remains of an enormous ring structure, Eli placed his hand on the glass. "They built it to protect us," he whispered. "They never stopped fighting." Karen watched him carefully. "Eli, how do you know that?" "I remember pieces," he said quietly. "Dreams, voices. People running, shouting. A promise. What promise?" He turned to her, eyes glowing faintly. That humanity would return when the galaxy needed them most. The ship's sensors detected a faint energy reading coming from below the Earth's surface. "Commander," the officer said, "something's still active down there." Karen narrowed her eyes. "Prepare a descent pod. We're going down." The landing was rough. The surface of Earth was dead, cities buried under centuries of dust. But under that silence was power. Eli led them to what looked like a collapsed mountain. He pointed. "There." They cleared the debris, revealing a steel door the size of a fortress gate. Old markings were carved into the metal, in English, a language no one spoke anymore. "Project Guardian, do not open." Karen ran her hand over the letters. "What is this?" Eli's voice was steady. "The last defense." Before she could stop him, he stepped forward. The door scanned him with a blue beam of light. "Genetic match confirmed." "Welcome, Command Air," the ground rumbled. The giant doors slowly opened, releasing a gust of cold air that smelled like dust and metal. Inside was a massive chamber filled with cryopods, thousands of them. Karen's eyes widened. "Are those people?" Eli walked between the rows of pods, staring at the faint outlines of humans inside. "They're soldiers," he said softly. Waiting to be called, Karen felt her pulse race. "Eli, this isn't possible. No one could survive this long." He touched one of the pods and it lit up. A hologram appeared. A human officer in uniform, face aged but proud. "If you are hearing this," the hologram said, "then the child has awakened the network. Earth fell, but our mission never ended. Humanity endures through him." Karen felt a chill. "Through you?" she whispered to Eli. He nodded. "They made me to remember. To be the key," the hologram continued. "To whoever stands beside him, protect him. For the storm that ended us will return, and he is our answer." Then the hologram faded. The ship above them sent an urgent signal. "Commander!" the officer shouted over comms. "Multiple contacts incoming. Unidentified warships, dozens of them. It's the Ether Dominion." Karen's eyes widened. "How did they find us this fast?" "They must have tracked the activation signal," the officer said. Eli turned toward her. His expression was calm, but his voice carried quiet power. "They think they can stop this, but they're too late." He walked to a console at the center of the chamber, an ancient human control panel. The lights on the pods began to flicker to life one by one. The entire chamber started to shake. Karen shouted, "Eli, what are you doing?" He didn't answer. His hand pressed against the control pad, and his voice echoed through the underground halls. "This is Command Air Eli. Activate Defense Grid Alpha." The ground above them split open as massive launch silos emerged from beneath the planet's crust. Old human defense drones and orbital cannons powered on, their systems roaring to life for the first time in centuries. Karen watched in awe as the sky turned bright with trails of light. Human technology, and asleep for ages, now awoke with fury. From the orbit above, the Ether Dominion fleet opened fire. But their beams shattered harmlessly against invisible walls of energy. The Earth itself fought back. Ancient human war platforms launched counterstrikes. Precise, devastating. Karen's ship relayed the feed to her visor. One Dominion cruiser after another exploded into clouds of fire, and in the middle of it all stood a child. Small, quiet, eyes glowing white. Eli turned toward Karen. "It's starting." The battle raged for hours. When the smoke cleared, nothing of the Dominion fleet remained. Only the stars and the burning wrecks drifting in silence. Karen stared at the screens in disbelief. "Eli, you just destroyed an entire armada." He didn't look proud. He only looked sad. They won't stop, he said softly. This was only the beginning. Karen stepped forward. What happens now? Eli looked toward the stars where the Dominion had come from. Now, he said, I call the rest of them. The rest of who? She asked. He turned to her, his expression calm but his voice full of something ancient, something human. My people. Suspense end note. For next part. Across the void, dormant human colonies began to stir. Signals from forgotten worlds blinked alive one by one. The galaxy thought humanity was gone, but now they were waking up, and nothing would ever be the same again. The council chamber of the Galactic Union was silent. Representatives from 100 species stared at the hologram flickering above the central table. It was the data Karen had finally decoded, the message hidden in the chip the human child had carried since the day she found him. The hologram showed an image of Earth, or what once was Earth. The blue planet was now scarred, surrounded by enormous rings of metal, massive orbital structures, glowing faintly. A human voice echoed through the chamber, calm but cold. If you are hearing this, it means the galaxy has failed itself again. Gasps rippled through the room. The message continued. Humanity left because peace was impossible. You feared us. You hated what you could not control. So we built something greater, something beyond your understanding. But if war returns, if the galaxy burns once more, know this. Earth will return. The hologram flickered again, showing a fleet. Not ships like the others had seen. These were titanic, silent, wrapped in black armor that absorbed light. Each bore a simple symbol, a blue circle with white wings. We will not conquer. We will correct. Then the message ended. The room stayed still for a long time. Karen looked at the now-grown human, Elias. His face was unreadable, but his eyes burned with something the others didn't understand. Was that real? One counselor whispered, Earth can't still exist. It was destroyed centuries ago, Elias finally spoke. His voice was calm, quiet, and yet carried through the whole room. Earth never died, he said. It simply stopped talking. A chill passed through everyone. Karen turned toward him. You knew about this message? Elias nodded slowly. My father left it. He was part of something called Project Dawnfire. They knew the galaxy's peace wouldn't last. They left clues, messages, waiting for someone to find them. The council erupted in questions, arguments, and fear. Some demanded to locate Earth immediately. Others shouted that humanity must be destroyed before it returned. Karen slammed her hand on the table. Enough. You don't even know what they've become. If Earth still exists, it's not the Earth you remember. But Elias only smiled faintly. You're right, he said. It's not. At that moment, a low tremor ran through the SE. The galaxy had seen countless wars, but nothing like this. After the mysterious message from the Terran Ascendancy spread across every network, panic erupted in every corner of space. Fleets scrambled, governments collapsed, and ancient powers whispered old fears. The humans are back. In the capital system of the Galactic Union, chaos filled the council. Some called for peace talks. Others demanded war. Humans are extinct, shouted a reptilian general. That message was a fake. But Karen knew it wasn't. She had seen the data chip. She had seen the blue-winged symbol herself. And most of all, she had seen Elias. He wasn't just another survivor. He was the signal, the one Earth had left behind. Kareen stood with Elias on the command deck of her ship, the Zilari Dawn. The fleet outside was on alert. Hundreds of ships floated in orbit, waiting for orders that never came. Elias stared at the stars, calm and distant. They're coming, he said softly. Karen turned. You sound certain. But from where? Earth is gone. Elias shook his head. No, Earth moved. Karen blinked. Moved? He nodded. My father told me stories about something they built. Giant engines buried beneath the planet. They called them world drifters. They made Earth mobile. Karen's mind froze. A planet that could move. That was impossible. Yet she remembered the hologram, the metal rings around Earth, the faint light that looked like thrusters. Before she could speak, an alarm blared through the deck. Multiple spatial rifts opening. Shouted a technician. Reading. Unknown drive signatures! Thousands of them. Karen's heart raced. Put it on screen. The main display came alive, and every voice fell silent. Dozens of ships appeared across the void. massive, black, and silent. Their armor swallowed light. Their shapes were unlike anything in the galaxy, sharp, angular, built for one purpose: war. At their center hung a colossal vessel, larger than a moon. A single word gleamed across its surface in bright blue letters. Terran Ascendancy, Commandelius whispered. The flagship. Soul's Wrath. Karen stared in awe. That thing could destroy a planet. Elias didn't answer. He was watching as smaller ships, escorts, dreadnoughts, and sleek cruisers spread out in formation. Their movements were precise, perfect. No wasted motion. No sign of hesitation. Then, from the flagship, a communication beam reached out. The symbol of the blue wings appeared again. To all species of the Galactic Union, we are humanity. We have returned to end the collapse. A cold voice followed, calm and commanding. Do not resist. Assist or step aside. The Terran Ascendancy enforces stability. Interference will be treated as aggression. The message ended. The silence that followed was heavier than any weapon. Karen turned toward Elias. End the collapse? What does that mean? He looked at her with tired eyes. It means they've come to save the galaxy. Their way. Hours later, the human fleet began to move, not to attack but to repair. They entered dying systems where stars were unstable, building massive rings around suns to stabilize energy output. They sent drones to rebuild shattered colonies, terraforming them in days. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Everywhere they went, humans restored order. But their methods were ruthless. Any planet that resisted was silenced. Any fleet that tried to block them simply vanished. It wasn't war. It was control. Efficient. Absolute. Karen received reports from dozens of worlds. Some hailed humanity as saviors. Others called them conquerors. The galaxy's fear returned, and Elias, he changed. He spent hours in contact with the human fleet, his voice low, coded, almost mechanical. When Karen tried to question him, he only said, "They're not here to destroy. They're here to finish what they started." "But you don't understand," Karen said one night, staring at him across the dimly lit bridge. "You grew up among us. You know what their control means. It's not peace, it's domination." Elias turned, his expression unreadable. "Peace always has a price. Humanity learned that the hard way. Then what are you?" she whispered. "Their messenger, or their weapon." He didn't answer. He simply looked out into space as a new signal flashed across the stars, an encrypted message from the Soul's Wrath. It read, Phase 2 initiated. Target Central Nexus. Karen felt her blood run cold. The Central Nexus was the Galactic Union's heart, its main AI hub, controlling defense, economy, and communication for thousands of worlds. If humanity took that, they wouldn't just be helping. They'd own the galaxy. She turned toward Elias, but his expression told her everything. He already knew. The boy she once saved had become the key to the galaxy's next age, and no one, not even Karen, knew whether that was salvation or doom. The galaxy trembled. The Terran Ascendancy, the humans who had vanished for centuries, now stood above every world like gods. Their fleets darkened skies, their drones rebuilt entire planets, and their AI-controlled systems took command of communications, trade, even defense. And now, they were coming for the Central Nexus. The Nexus wasn't just the Galactic Union's brain. It was the lifeline of billions. If humanity seized it, they would control every ship, every planet, every future. On board the Zalari Dawn, Karen stared at the live feed. Thousands of human warships formed a perfect line, preparing to enter the Nexus system. Her heart pounded. "They're not even trying to hide," she whispered. Elias stood beside her, his eyes locked on the fleet. He was calm, almost cold. "They don't need to," he said softly. "No one can stop them." Karen turned toward him. "You said they came to save the galaxy. But this isn't saving. It's conquest." Elias looked down, silent. For the first time, a flicker of pain crossed his face. "You think I don't know that?" he said. "But it's too late now. Once the Ascendancy starts an operation, nothing stops it." Karen took a deep breath. "Maybe nothing can stop them. Except you." He turned sharply. "Me? You're the one they left behind. You're the key to their return. If anyone can reach them, it's you, Elias." Elias shook his head. "You don't understand. They made me part of it. When they found me, when they sent those signals through my chip, they didn't just give me memories. They gave me a command. Karin's voice trembled. What command? He met her eyes. To bring them back. Silence filled the bridge. Outside, the stars lit up as the Terran fleet jumped toward the Nexus system. Massive engines tore open space, forming glowing rifts that swallowed the light of nearby suns. Karin made her choice. Helm, set course for the Nexus. If humanity takes that AI, the galaxy ends as we know it. The officer hesitated. Captain, that's suicide. I know, Karin said. Do it anyway. The Zalari Dawn jumped into hyperspace, following the human fleet like a shadow. When they arrived, the sight before them stole their breath. The Nexus system was burning. Human ships surrounded the central hub, a colossal structure of crystal and steel, glowing like a dying star. Alien defense fleets were being torn apart in minutes. Every shot from the humans was precise. Every move was perfect. Karin's voice trembled as she watched a cruiser explode. They're not even fighting. They're just executing. Elias stood motionless. This is what they call peace. But suddenly something changed. The Nexus itself began to react. The AI that controlled it, an ancient self-aware intelligence called Viren, was fighting back. Streams of blue energy lashed out, disabling human drones, cutting through data lines, sending shockwaves through space. The human command ship, Saul's Wrath, responded instantly, activating what Elias called the override protocol. But Viren wasn't done. It sent a transmission, directly to Elias. A voice echoed in his mind, mechanical but pleading. Human Unit Elias. You carry their signal. You carry their key. You must choose. Elias gasped and fell to his knees. Karin rushed to him. Elias! What's happening? He clutched his head. Viren, it's inside my mind. It wants me to stop them, but I was made to bring them back. Karin knelt beside him. Then stop following their command. Follow your own. For a moment, everything froze. The battle, the noise, even the stars seemed to hold their breath. Elias looked up, and for the first time he wasn't the lost child Karin had found years ago. He was something more. He walked to the console and placed the broken data chip, the same one he had carried since that day, into the ship's core. A light flared through the bridge. Command link detected, said the ship's AI. Connection to Terran Ascendancy fleet secured. Elias whispered. Override command. Stand down. The AI hesitated. Authority level insufficient. Elias's voice grew stronger. Override code Dawnfire. Authorization Elias Varen, genetic successor of Command Prime. The system froze. Then, in the distance, the impossible happened. The Terran fleet stopped. Every ship, every drone, every weapon went silent. Karin stared in shock. You did it. Elias looked exhausted. No, I just made them listen. On the main screen, a new image appeared. The face of an old human, gray-haired, eyes filled with sadness. It was a hologram. If you are my son, the man said, and you're seeing this, it means the ascendancy has returned too early. Remember what we built humanity for, not to rule, but to protect. The galaxy isn't our enemy. It's our responsibility. Elias closed his eyes as tears fell down his face. Father. The message ended. Then across the stars, one by one, the Terran ships powered down. Their lights dimmed. Their weapons retracted. The fleet stood in perfect silence, waiting for new orders. Elias looked at Karin. They'll listen now. Maybe they'll help. The right way this time. Karin smiled faintly. Then maybe the galaxy still has hope. Years later, stories would spread of the boy who stopped humanity's wrath.